Good morning. This is Gimpy's History Corner, dedicated to my two grandsons, Ellis and Archie, standing in front of the Noblesville, Hamilton County Courthouse. It's homecoming weekend here. And I don't know if we're going to go to the football game or not. We'll have to wait and see. This is video number 20. And it's in honor of today on the calendar being POW MIA Day, Prisoner of War Missing in Action Day. Just a review of the history of prisoners of war in our country. Starting with the Revolutionary War, the British treated American prisoners as criminals rather than POWs. Thousands died on prison ships in the New York harbor. That was pretty brutal. During the Civil War, both sides used parole and exchange through the first part of the war. And I think both sides realized if they were going to do that, the war is going to go on forever. And they started creating prisoner of war camps. One of the most brutal was Andersonville in the southern states. I read a book about Andersonville years ago, and it was just unbelievably cruel how those northern soldiers were treated. I don't have any information on any northern camps. World War II, 400,000 Axis prisoners, in other words, German prisoners, were held on American farms. It'd be German, Italian, Japanese. And they worked on American farms and industries. As far as I know, they were treated pretty well. In the movies, you remember movies about German prisoner of war camps, The Great Escape, Steve McQueen, Stalag 17, and you had the TV show Hogan's Heroes, all about German prisoner of war camps. Japan treated their prisoners very brutally. Another movie, Bridge Over the River Kwai. So I don't know what was going on there. The Korean War was even more brutal in some ways. Korean War, the Koreans held 7,000, the North Koreans held 7,140 prisoners from the American side. After the war, 4,447 were returned in 1953, and 2,701 American prisoners died as North Korea prisoner of war. And we just don't know about at least 50 of them, what happened to them. So Vietnam is the most prominent because that's where the POW MIA flag came from. At the end of the Vietnam War, 591 Americans were released after the Paris Peace Accords. In 1973, there were 2,646 unaccounted for MIAs. As of 2022, there are still 1,582 unaccounted for. 1,004 are under active pursuit, still investigating, I guess that means. 488 are deemed unrecoverable, and 90 are deferred. Not sure what that means. There is a part of the Department of Defense that still works on this, hoping to find either remains that they can use forensic abilities, scientific methods to figure out who the bones belong to. It's called the Defense POWMIA Accounting Agency. It's under the Defense Department. The other thing that came out of these prisoner of wars of the Vietnam War was PTSD, post-traumatic stress. Studies show that 53% of POWs have persistent PTSD for decades, so they didn't come out of it very good. Probably the most famous prisoner of war from Vietnam was Senator John McCain from Arizona. He was a fighter pilot who was shot down. Spent time, I don't know how many years he was in a prisoner of war camp in Vietnam. They broke it. His legs were broken. And he had physical problems the rest of his life. So that's my summary of what we know about prisoner of wars missing in action. There are a few people that they think may have actually went off and stayed in Vietnam. Not very many, just a few. But they choose not to spend any time advertising that. They don't think they're prisoners of war. They just chose to stay back. Of course, by now they'd be pretty old. And as I said on a previous video, we have quite a few Vietnamese coming to America to become citizens. So I assume those would be South Vietnamese who helped us during the war. I don't know. But Vietnam has turned around and become a pretty productive country. A lot of companies go there to get cheap labor and produce things. My brother went into the National Guard rather than be drafted to go to Vietnam. Kent State, we talked about Kent State shooting by the National Guard during the Vietnam War. Turbulent time, a lot of protests around the country. President Johnson decided not to run again because of Vietnam. President Nixon said he'd get us out, but it took forever. More bombing, lots of bombing of North Vietnam and Laos and Cambodia. So, feel for all these POWs, had a rough time. And we got some of them back, but not enough. So keep the POWs and MIAs in your hearts and minds. Thank them for their service. And let's hope we don't have any more in the future. Bengals play who do the Bengals play this week? I can't remember. I think the Buckeyes are in Washington, University of Washington. Reds have won 3 in a row. I don't know whether to get excited about that or not. Oh, the Bengals play Minnesota with 2 backup quarterbacks. We'll see how that goes. All right, the next time I'm going to be starting a lengthy series on Abraham Lincoln. You'll see that I have quite a few books on Abraham Lincoln. So we'll trace his life from when he was born up through his assassination. I'm not sure how many videos that will be. At least 4, probably, maybe 5. All right, you guys have a great weekend.